the warning ignored. Fleet Admiral Crix stood on the bridge of his flagship, eyes fixed on the stars stretching across the void. His massive fleet of Zephyrian warships floated silently in formation, hundreds of gleaming vessels poised for destruction. Each ship was armed with weapons capable of wiping out entire planets. For 30 years, Crix had conquered world after world, leaving a trail of submission and fear across the galaxy. To him, humans were just another obstacle, weak, untested, and insignificant. He crossed his scaled arms behind his back and studied the tactical display. New Austin, a small human colony near the edge of their space, glowed like a tiny jewel. The humans had 43 colonies scattered across 30 systems, and their fleet was small, outdated, and disorganized. Easy, he thought. A minor conquest to prove our power. Another notch on my belt. A soft chime echoed across the bridge. Communications Officer Vexri's tentacles twitched nervously as she turned to him. "Sir, we are receiving a priority transmission from the Vorak Coalition," she said. The Vorak, ancient beings who had watched the galaxy for thousands of years, known for their wisdom and their warnings. Their messages were almost always ignored, dismissed as old fears from a dying race. But the Admiral's expression darkened nonetheless. "Put it through," he ordered. The main screen flickered, filling with static. Then a tall, hooded figure appeared. Elder Voran's presence was commanding, his voice deep and hollow like wine through empty caverns. "Fleet Admiral Crixto of the Zephyrian Empire. I bring you a warning," he said. The bridge fell silent. Even the hum of the ship's system seemed to quiet down. "We know of your plans to attack the humans," Voran continued. "Do not do this. The humans are not like other species you have conquered. They are dangerous in ways you cannot understand." Crix's jaw clicked in annoyance. "Explain yourself, Elder. Our intelligence shows the humans are weak. Few ships, few colonies. Numbers do not lie." Voran's eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. "Numbers never tell the full story. Humans do not fight for territory or resources alone. They fight for each other. They fight for family, for friends, for home. When they are threatened, they do not retreat. They do not surrender. They become something entirely different." Crix scowled. "Superstitions. Fables. The Vorak have grown weak with age. The humans will fall like all the others." Voran's expression hardened, and his voice grew urgent. "We have seen what happens when this warning is ignored. Another species made this mistake. They attacked humans without understanding them. They no longer exist." The transmission cut briefly and static filled the screen. "Listen carefully, Admiral. If you attack humans, they will not let you flee. They will hunt your people across the stars. Every ship, every soldier, every last one of your kind will pay the price for your arrogance." Crix clenched his fists, the warning striking at his pride. "Enough," he said coldly. "We are the Zephyrian Empire. We have conquered species older and stronger than humans. We do not fear fairy tales from ancient relics." Vexri hesitated. "Sir, perhaps we should reconsider?" "No," Crix interrupted, his voice hard as stone. "We continue as planned. The Vorak speak from shadows. They have forgotten what it means to be warriors." He turned back to the tactical display. Human space looked small, weak, insignificant. 43 colonies, 30 systems, a fleet of barely 60 ships, he said. Primitive weapons, minimal defenses. This will be over in weeks. Maybe days. Commander Urickson nodded eagerly. "The humans cannot withstand us, sir. They will surrender without a fight." Crix smiled grimly. "Exactly. They will serve as an example to any species foolish enough to defy the Empire." That night, alone in his quarters, Crix reviewed intelligence reports on the humans. Indeed, their ships were primitive, chemical rockets instead of plasma drives, kinetic weapons instead of energy cannons. Shields were weak, armor was simple metal alloys. By every measure they were weak. But something in the cultural reports made him pause. Humans celebrated their history of battles, telling stories of heroes who stood against impossible odds. Tales of small groups resisting overwhelming forces. Legends of sacrifice, courage, and loyalty. Crix shrugged. Every species had myths, he reasoned. They mattered little when faced with real war. 3 days later, the Zephyrian fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Austin system. The colony below lay undefended, just as intelligence had predicted. The attack began with precision. Civilians scrambled into underground bunkers while orbital platforms fired missiles at the approaching fleet. The first explosions lit up space like fireworks. Yet, despite being vastly outnumbered, humans fought back. Small patrol ships darted through the chaos, ramming alien fighters and striking unexpectedly from behind asteroids. Krixt watched in disbelief. His fleet, the most feared in Zephyrian history, faced resistance unlike anything they had seen. "Why aren't they retreating?" an officer asked. "They fight for each other," Krixt muttered, his confidence shaken. "This is something else entirely." The Vorak warning echoed in his mind. He had dismissed it, mocked it, ignored it. But now the first signs of the humans' defiance appeared. They were not weak. They would not yield. And for the first time in decades, Krixt felt the faintest hint of fear. Still he refused to retreat. He was an admiral. He was Zephyrian. He would conquer these humans or die trying. His pride would not allow him to heed the warning that now burned in his mind. The fleet continued its assault, oblivious that their arrogance had already set the stage for a battle far beyond what they had ever imagined. In their confidence, they had ignored a simple truth. Humans never, ever let their people be harmed without paying the price. And in doing so, they had awakened a force that would change the galaxy forever. The invasion begins. The Zephyrian fleet hung in orbit above New Austin like a dark, unbroken storm. Hundreds of ships filled the system, each bristling with weapons capable of obliterating the colony in minutes. Fleet Admiral Krixt stood on the bridge of his flagship, his yellow eyes scanning the tactical display. The humans below were tiny dots on the screen, fragile and unarmed compared to his massive fleet. "Begin the attack," he ordered. The alien ships moved in perfect formation. Missiles streaked through the void, leaving bright trails as they closed on the human orbital platforms. Explosions erupted around the small colony, smoke rising into the thin atmosphere. From the command center, Captain Jake Morrison watched the chaos unfold, his heart pounding. "Sir, we have contacts dropping out of hyperspace," Lieutenant Amy Patterson reported, her hands shaking slightly but her voice steady. "Hundreds of them. They're warships." Jake moved to the main display. Red dots multiplied like blood across the tactical map. "How many?" he asked. "At least 100, maybe more," Amy replied. "They aren't responding to our hails." Jake's face hardened. He had been a soldier before retiring to the colony. He knew the numbers and he knew what they meant. "Sound general quarters," he ordered. "Get everyone to the shelters. Send an emergency broadcast to Earth Command. Tell them we're under attack." The colony of 50,000 spread across 12 settlements scrambled. Families ran to underground bunkers, and military personnel took defensive positions at orbital platforms and laser batteries. Even though New Austin had no real military, every settlement had basic defenses. 2 hours later, the Zephyrian warships unleashed a barrage of firepower. Lasers cut through the skies, missiles streaked toward the orbiting fleet, and human orbital defenses fired back as best as they could. Most of the alien missiles were destroyed, but a few got through. 2 ships exploded, a small victory that brought a momentary cheer to the humans. "Sir, they're launching fighters," Amy called out. Hundreds of small Zephyrian ships swarmed toward the colony. Jake's 6 patrol ships moved to intercept, but 3 were destroyed within minutes. The rest fought back with surprising tactics. They hid behind asteroids, attacked in unexpected directions, and even rammed damaged enemy fighters. "Why aren't they retreating?" an officer asked, stunned. "They're human," Jake said quietly. "We don't run when our people are threatened." On the ground, the battle was just as fierce. Alien dropships poured troops onto the surface, ready to take over settlements. But humans fought back in every way they could. Farmers rammed alien vehicles with tractors. Miners used explosives to blow open enemy paths. Children too young to fight carried ammunition to defenders. Elderly citizens acted as spotters, guiding the defenders with precision. "Sir, Settlement 7 reports success," Amy said. "They've pushed the aliens back." Jake nodded grimly. "Good. Keep fighting." Despite their courage, the aliens began to make progress. Every building had to be taken by force. Every street was defended, but eventually alien soldiers broke through the outer defenses. Jake and his remaining staff, 12 in total, prepared to make their last stand. The doors exploded inward. Alien soldiers poured in. Jake reached for his sidearm, but a stun blast dropped him before he could fire. He woke up hours later in a small holding cell, battered but alive. Dr. Lisa Hayes and Sergeant Carl Brooks sat nearby, bruised and exhausted. 6 hours, Lisa said quietly. "They've taken about 50 of us for questioning." 2 aliens entered, followed by a third, clearly a commanding officer. "I am Commander Erickson," he said in accented English. "You fought well for primitives, but why not surrender?" Lisa's voice was calm. "Because you attacked our home. You heard our people. All species defend their territory. Humans fight for more than just land. We fight for our families, our friends, our neighbors. The commander's expression shifted, confusion crossing his alien features. He had not expected this. Resistance should have ended hours ago, yet these humans had made them bleed for every meter of ground. Sergeant Brooks laughed, harsh and dry. You think this was resistance? This was just the warm-up. Wait until the real fleet arrives. Your nearest military forces are days away. You don't get it, Brooks continued. Every human in the galaxy just became your enemy. We don't forget. We don't forgive. And we never let anyone hurt our own without consequences. Commander Erickson left the cell without another word, his mind racing. The humans weren't ordinary soldiers, they were a civilization fighting back with everything they had. 3 hours later, Amy was brought in. Did the message get through? Jake asked. Amy nodded, bruised but determined. Every human fleet in the galaxy received it. Full tactical analysis, battle recordings, everything. Admiral Cole is already moving her forces toward the system. And the humans are ready. Outside, alarm klaxons began sounding on the alien ships. Humans were coming faster than the Zephyrian commanders had calculated. The aliens had believed this would be an easy victory, but they had underestimated human determination, ingenuity, and unity. The Zephyrian fleet had attacked what they thought were weak, defenseless humans. Instead, they had awakened a species that would never allow such an attack to go unanswered. The invasion of New Austin was only the beginning. Fleet Admiral Krixt, back on his flagship, could sense the shift. Reports of human reinforcements were flooding in. His once powerful fleet was taking damage and suffering losses. This isn't war as we know it, he muttered to himself. Humans fought differently, using clever tactics, improvisation, and relentless determination. The Vorak warning rang in his mind, louder now than ever. Humans did not fight like other species. They fought for each other, for their families, for their homes. And they would not stop. The invasion had begun, but the humans were not beaten. They had bled and suffered, yet every human alive had learned a simple truth. When their people are threatened, there is no force in the galaxy capable of breaking their spirit. Krixt's pride, his arrogance, and his certainty of victory were all crumbling. He had ignored the warning. He had believed the humans would be weak. But now the first lesson was clear. Humans fight for more than victory. They fight for justice. And they would not stop. The Zephyrian fleet was broken and scattered. Fleet Admiral Krixt watched the reports pour in from his remaining ships. One by one, his captains were reporting losses, surrenders, and disappearances. The humans were hunting them. For months, the humans had quietly mobilized. Every colony, every ship, every capable person was now part of a network built to track down every Zephyrian soldier responsible for New Austin. Fleet Admiral Susan Cole had turned the aftermath of the attack into a weapon. Every surviving human ship, whether military or civilian, had become a hunter. Captain Rachel Davis piloted her retrofitted cargo ship, the Deep Tracker, through the Vega system. Once, this ship had carried food and manufactured goods. Now it carried long-range sensors, weapons, and a small squadron of elite soldiers. Rachel's team tracked the movements of a lone Zephyrian destroyer, Kethmore, which had fled the system after the failed attack. Faint energy signature, 2 days old, Lieutenant Mike Torres reported. It matches the pattern from Kethmore. Rachel nodded. Plot the course. Send the coordinates to Admiral Cole. Another sighting confirmed. Humans had changed the game. They didn't need to face the Zephyrians head-on in massive fleets. They struck like predators, targeting isolated ships, disabling them, and leaving survivors to face the consequences of their actions. The psychological pressure was devastating. Zephyrian crews no longer traveled in groups. Alone they were easy prey. Commander Ryan Walsh led a hunting squad of converted civilian ships. Old cargo haulers were now stealth hunters, capable of following Zephyrian vessels across light years without being detected. Passenger liners had been turned into command ships, carrying sensors, weapons, and teams trained to capture enemy crews alive whenever possible. Target acquired, Walsh reported during a briefing. Destroyer Kethmore is moving through the Vega system, attempting to hide. Our squads are in position. The Zephyrian captain had no idea what was waiting. As his ship moved silently, human ships emerged from the asteroid belt like ghosts, surrounding him. He panicked, trying to flee, but every jump point, every potential hideout had already been tracked. Prepare boarding party, Walsh ordered. Captain Pete Adams led a team of skilled operatives. He had been a diplomat before the war, fluent in alien languages and trained in psychology. Now those skills were deadly tools. "We know you were at New Austin," Pete told the Zephyrian captain. "We have sensor records. Your choice is simple. Tell us where Fleet Admiral Krixt is hiding, or be left on the nearest airless moon." The alien captain was confused. "We are at war. You cannot treat us like this." Pete's expression was cold. "This is not about war. You attacked civilians. You killed our people. Rules of engagement are for armies, not for murderers. You had a choice and you refused. Now you live with the consequences." Back on Earth, Admiral Cole oversaw the operation from Kepler Prime. Human hunting groups operated in small, scattered teams, appearing unpredictably across the galaxy. Their goal was not just to capture or destroy Zephyrian ships. It was to send a message. Every fleet, every captain, every soldier who had attacked humans now knew they could not hide. Reports came from across systems. Zephyrian crews who tried to surrender to neutral worlds were handed over to the humans. Trading routes shifted to avoid areas where human hunter ships were active. Entire star systems went silent when sensors detected human presence. The galaxy had learned a new rule: helping the Zephyrians was suicide. Fleet Admiral Krixt had fled to the edge of the galaxy, hiding in abandoned systems, but even there he was not safe. His supply lines were cut. His remaining ships were crippled, running on minimal power. Communications with his scattered captains were filled with desperation and fear. "Sir, some of my crews are talking about surrender," Commander Zakriel reported over a flickering transmission. "They think the humans will show mercy." Krixt's face was hard. "Humans don't show mercy. They show justice. Every Zephyrian responsible for New Austin will face consequences. Do not forget that. Do not underestimate them again." For 6 months the humans hunted. Not like soldiers hunting soldiers, but like a species defending every member of its family. Children, farmers, teachers, doctors. All humans were connected by the memory of what had happened at New Austin. And everywhere the Zephyrians went, humans followed. Slowly, systematically, the once mighty fleet of 200 ships was reduced. Prisoners were captured and interrogated. Ships were destroyed or disabled. Every corner of the galaxy that once seemed safe for the Zephyrians had been mapped, tracked, and sealed by humans. The psychological toll was crushing. The Zephyrians could not understand it. They had expected fear, panic, and surrender. Instead, they encountered methodical, intelligent hunting. Every failure at New Austin was remembered and recorded. Every human knew exactly what had happened, and every human knew exactly what needed to be done. Krixt realized too late that the Vorak warning had been correct. Humans were not like other species. They did not fight for glory, for territory, or for honor alone. They fought for each other. And when humans fought for their own, nothing, no fleet, no empire, could stop them. As reports poured in, the last few Zephyrian ships scattered, moving from system to system in a desperate attempt to regroup. Even neutral and allied alien species refused to give them shelter. The humans had rewritten the rules of war. The galaxy itself had become a trap for those who dared harm humanity. Krixt stared at the screens in disbelief. "We are losing everything," he muttered. "And we cannot stop them. Not anywhere." On Kepler Prime, Admiral Cole reviewed the latest reports. "How many ships left unaccounted for?" she asked Commander Walsh. 37, ma'am," he replied. "Scattered and desperate." "Then we tighten the net," Cole said. "No more delays. No more mercy. Find every last one of them." The hunt was entering its final phase. For the Zephyrians, this was a nightmare they had brought upon themselves. For the humans, it was a lesson in unity, determination, and the cost of defending what mattered most. And for the galaxy, it was the first clear sign that humans were not just another species to conquer. They were a force to be reckoned with, a species that would never allow harm to come to their families without paying a price, no matter how far or how long it took. The hunt had begun. Fleet Admiral Krixt had grown desperate. His once mighty fleet, now reduced to only 23 ships, drifted in scattered formations near the outer rim of the solar systems. Every jump, every hiding spot, every neutral planet had been mapped and tracked by humans. His officers whispered about surrender, but Krixt refused. He believed one final strike could force the humans to negotiate. Earth itself, the homeworld of the species he had underestimated, was the target. "Admiral, the humans are gathering their forces," Commander Zakriel reported nervously. "Sensor data shows hundreds of ships moving toward the Sol system." Krixt's yellow eyes narrowed. "Let them come. We will take Earth, and perhaps then they will finally consider terms. Even if we fall, we will fall as warriors, not hunted prey." Unbeknownst to Krixt, Admiral Susan Cole had anticipated this move months ago. Every human ship, every colony fleet, every civilian vessel that could fly had been quietly mobilized. The so-called human hunt was not just a retaliation, it was a strategic preparation for the final confrontation. Every move the Zephyrians made had been predicted, every possible escape route sealed. Captain Rachel Davis checked her squadron's readiness from the deep tracker. Sensors show the Zephyrians are on the move. All units in position. Affirmative, Captain, Lieutenant Mike Torres replied. All hunting teams ready. Coordinates uploaded to command. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of USS Defiance, her eyes scanning the star charts. The blue jewel of Earth floated peacefully ahead, seemingly unarmed, yet surrounded by the most sophisticated defense network in human history. Orbital weapons platforms, layered fleets, long-range interceptors. Every system was connected to Earth's central command. Humans were ready for Krixt. This is it, Cole said, addressing her officers. They believe they can strike at us, but they've walked into a trap. Remember, every ship, every crew, every Zephyrian responsible for New Austin is fair game. They brought this on themselves. Krixt had no idea. As his 23 ships emerged from hyperspace near Earth, the empty space around them seemed calm. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. His damaged fleet, low on resources and morale, had survived months of relentless pursuit. Perhaps he could finally force a negotiation. Sir, sensors are picking up hundreds of ships decloaking around us, a nervous Zephyrian officer reported. Krixt's jaw tightened. Impossible. They can't have mobilized that many. They are all around us, the officer said. We cannot escape. Jump points are blocked. Every system nearby is being watched. Krixt's confidence faltered for the first time. He realized the Vorak warning had been true. Humans did not fight like other species. They were relentless, patient, and calculated. They hunted not just armies, they hunted individuals, fleets, entire empires when necessary. On the human side, Captain Rachel Davis's squadron moved into position, flanking the Zephyrian fleet from multiple vectors. Commander Ryan Walsh piloted heavy cruisers, cutting off retreat points. Even civilian ships, cargo haulers and passenger liners converted for combat, joined the formation, creating a net of coordinated hunters. Admiral Cole, Walsh reported, the Zephyrians are attempting to regroup, but our units have them surrounded. They're too damaged to resist effectively. Cole's eyes were cold and steady. Let them come closer. We will not fire until they are fully committed. This is about more than victory. This is about sending a message. Krixt ordered his fleet to form a defensive perimeter, but it was useless. Humans did not attack blindly. They studied, they predicted, they moved in ways that Zephyrians could not anticipate. Every time a Zephyrian ship tried to break formation or flee, a human squad intercepted, forcing surrender or destruction. Sir, boarding parties are being deployed, another officer reported. They are targeting our ship's bridges directly. Krixt's crew panicked. Even the smallest of Zephyrian craft were boarded, captured, and marked. Sensors revealed their fleet's paths, weaknesses, and crew details, all recorded for the humans to use. Every ship that had participated in the New Austin massacre was accounted for. Krixt's flagship, the largest and most powerful of his remaining fleet, became the focal point. He watched as the humans slowly and methodically surrounded them. Boarding shuttles approached, shields lowered, ready for action. Captain Davis, Cole's voice came over the fleet-wide comms. You walked into this trap. For 6 months we've been guiding you here. Every time we let one of your ships escape, we were teaching you patience. Every step brought you closer to this moment. Krixt's face went pale. You have been planning this the whole time? Yes, Cole replied calmly. Every attack you thought you could get away with has led you here. The humans do not forget. The humans do not forgive. You made it personal at New Austin, and now you will face the consequences. The battle itself lasted less than an hour. Krixt's damaged ships could not resist. Their weapons were outmatched, their coordination shattered, and their morale destroyed. One by one, human fire disabled their engines, cut their communications, and forced their surrender. Boarding parties moved in, capturing crews alive wherever possible. Krixt's flagship was the last to fall. Human marines swarmed its corridors, meeting little resistance. The admiral himself was found in the ready room, staring at the holomap of his empire. He had once commanded the most feared fleet in Zephyrian history. Now he was broken, defeated, and powerless. He was brought before Admiral Cole on Earth. Burns and damage covered his uniform. Pride, once unshakable, was gone. Why? He asked, his voice trembling. We offered surrender. We offered terms. Why wouldn't you let us go? Cole stood, her gaze steady and unwavering. You didn't just attack a colony. You didn't just steal territory or resources. You killed our families. You made it personal. And when you attack humans, you fight everyone who defends them. We never let that go. Crix could not comprehend it. We were following orders. This is how war has always been. Not with humans, Cole said firmly. We fight for each other. We do not retreat when outnumbered. We do not surrender when wrongs have been done. We remember. We act. You thought you could conquer us like the others. You were wrong. Crix was silent. For the first time he understood. The Vorak warning had been true. Humans were not like other species. They fought with unity, determination, and purpose. They had turned the aftermath of New Austin into a weapon that destroyed his fleet, his pride, and his empire. And across the galaxy the message was clear. When humans are attacked, no one is safe. Not fleets, not empires, not allies. Every act of aggression against them would be met with relentless justice. The trap was set. And the Zephyrians had walked right into it. The fall of Crix. Fleet Admiral Crix sat in a cold, dimly lit cell aboard the human flagship. The once proud Zephyrian commander had been stripped of rank, pride, and power. The battle for Earth had ended in less than an hour, and now the humans were holding him accountable, not with vengeance but with justice. His officers and crew scattered across the galaxy had already been captured, surrendered, or destroyed. The Zephyrian Empire, feared for decades, was now in ruins. Every system knew that the humans did not forget the crimes committed against New Austin. Admiral Crix, a human officer said, opening the cell. It's time for your trial. Crix rose stiffly, his scales marred with burns and scratches. Trial? I fought as a warrior. I followed orders. His voice trembled, a mixture of disbelief and anger. You cannot judge me. You are not my superiors. The officer's expression was calm. We judge actions, Admiral. Actions that violated universal law, galactic treaties, and the rights of civilians. You led the attack on New Austin. You targeted non-combatants, children, elders, families. This is not the conduct of warriors. This is murder. Crix swallowed hard. He had expected battle, not law. He had expected revenge, not procedure. And yet, the humans were methodical, fair, and deliberate. They were determined to show that strength alone did not excuse crimes. The courtroom was vast, held within an orbital station above Earth. Screens displayed the faces of the victims, families who had survived, and representatives from human colonies across the galaxy. The room was silent as Crix was brought in, flanked by human guards. The chief judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, spoke first. Fleet Admiral Crix, you stand accused of crimes against humanity. You attacked a civilian colony, disregarded all warnings, and caused the deaths of tens of thousands. You will have the opportunity to speak before the sentence is decided. What do you say? Crix looked around the room. The faces staring at him were not filled with hatred but with resolve. He tried to summon his former pride, the confidence that had carried him across 50 conquered worlds. But it was gone. I should have listened to the Vorak warning, he whispered finally. I believed humans were weak. I was wrong. I acted on orders, but the cost. I did not foresee it. The prosecution presented evidence. Video recordings from New Austin, intercepted communications, and accounts from survivors filled the courtroom. Children's drawings, family photos, and stories of bravery and loss were shown. Every act of violence was documented. Every civilian's life mattered. Crix could only watch as the enormity of his actions was laid bare. The defense tried to argue obedience to orders and military tradition. But the humans were prepared. Every human legal expert, every officer, every historian in the courtroom reminded Crix, following illegal orders is still a crime. War does not justify murder. Crix felt his knees weaken. The truth of the humans' words weighed heavier than any battle damage. They were not seeking vengeance, they were upholding a principle. They were making sure that such a crime could never happen again. Witnesses were called, including Colonel Jake Morrison, who had defended New Austin. He spoke calmly, describing the resistance of civilians, the bravery of teachers, farmers, and children who had refused to surrender. We did not fight because it was easy. We fought because it was right. And now, Admiral, you face the consequences. Not for being a soldier but for being a murderer. Months passed as the trial continued. Other Zephyrian officers were tried, some pleading guilty, others denying responsibility. All were held accountable. Human courts were meticulous. The message was clear. Crimes against civilians, against families, against children, would not be ignored. Finally, it was Crick's turn for sentencing. He stood in the center of the courtroom, head lowered, his pride shattered. The chief judge looked at him with unflinching eyes. Fleet Admiral Crixt, your actions have caused the deaths of tens of thousands. You ignored repeated warnings from the Vorak Coalition, attacked civilians, and violated every code of conduct in galactic history. The sentence is as follows. You will be imprisoned in a secure human colony for life. You will never hold command again. You will publicly acknowledge your crimes, and your remaining fleet will be disbanded. Crixt closed his eyes, a low hiss escaping his throat. There was no fight left in him. He had underestimated humans, and the consequences had been complete. His empire, his fleet, his pride, all destroyed. Outside the courtroom, humans and surviving Zephyrians alike watched. The message was undeniable. Humanity did not allow injustice to go unpunished. It was not fear that drove their actions, it was principle. Civilians, families, and entire colonies mattered. Elder Voran of the Vorak Coalition sent a final message to all known worlds. Let the fate of the Zafrans serve as a lesson. Humans are peaceful when left alone. They trade fairly, negotiate honestly, and honor their agreements. But when you harm their families, when you attack their children, when you make war upon their homes, they become something else entirely. They become relentless. They become justice. Crixt was escorted to his prison, a facility designed to hold beings of his size and strength. He was left to reflect on his decisions, the warnings he had ignored, and the true nature of the species he had underestimated. Meanwhile, across human space, preparations continued. Colonies rebuilt, fleets maintained, and civilians trained. Humanity had proven itself, not through conquest but through unity, courage, and unyielding principle. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to defend one's people, and the lesson was remembered in every corner of known space. Crix's fall was complete. His empire lay in ruins. The humans had not only survived, they had reshaped the galaxy's understanding of justice, strength, and honor. And the memory of New Austin, the families lost, and the courage displayed would echo for generations. Humanity had made one thing abundantly clear. They do not forgive lightly, they do not forget, and they never, ever let anyone harm their own without consequence. The lessons learned. Months had passed since the fall of Fleet Admiral Crixt and the collapse of the Zafran Empire. Across human space, colonies were being rebuilt, ships repaired, and families reunited. But the galaxy itself had changed forever. Every species that had once feared or envied the Zephyrian Empire now viewed humanity with caution and respect. The attack on New Austin and the humans' relentless response had become the most talked-about event in known space. Word spread that the humans did not act out of anger but out of principle. They did not kill without reason, but if their people were harmed, there would be no hiding from justice. On Earth, Admiral Susan Cole stood in the newly rebuilt command center on Kepler Prime. The screens before her showed every sector of human-controlled space, tracking remnants of Zephyrian forces. Each red dot on the map represented a ship that had been destroyed, captured, or marked for surveillance. "Status report," she said, her voice calm but firm. Commander Ryan Walsh replied, "The remaining Zephyrian ships are scattered across 5 systems, mostly hiding among neutral worlds. Few attempt to fight. Most have surrendered voluntarily once they see human forces nearby." Susan nodded. "Good. The galaxy needs to see that aggression has a cost. Humanity does not negotiate with murderers. They enforce justice." Colonel Jake Morrison, who had defended New Austin, was reviewing the memorial wall reports. Every name of the deceased was recorded and remembered. He turned to a group of young diplomats from alien worlds who had come to study human culture. "Humans forgive," he said, "but we never forget. And we never let anyone hurt our families without consequences." The young aliens looked uneasy. "But your entire species mobilized against a fleet of just 23 ships," one asked. "Wasn't that extreme?" Jake shook his head. "It wasn't about numbers. It was about the principle. If we allow someone to harm our people, the same mistake will be repeated. Justice must be certain no matter how long it takes or how far we must go to achieve it." Across the galaxy, the effects of the human hunt were being felt. Trade routes had shifted to avoid human fleets, not because of fear, but because every intelligent species had learned the lesson. Harboring enemies of humanity was dangerous. Alien governments, once neutral or indifferent, now actively collaborated to avoid retaliation. The Centran Trade Federation shared intelligence freely. The Altarian Republic opened its space to human patrols. Even isolationist empires passed along censored data. It wasn't conquest or fear that drove humans. It was the certainty of principle. The galaxy had never encountered a species like them. Fleet Admiral Krixt, still imprisoned, studied reports sent from human intelligence. His pride had been broken, but he could not ignore the lessons. Humans had mobilized their entire species in a disciplined, strategic, and ethical response. Their families, colonies, and civilians had all been part of the effort. The humans had turned every act of violence against them into a weapon against their aggressors. Even the Vorak Coalition, ancient watchers of the galaxy, updated their records. Elder Voran's voice echoed across communication networks, addressing all known species. "Let the fate of the Zafrans be a lesson," he said. "Humans are peaceful when left alone. They trade fairly, honor agreements, and resolve disputes with words. But when their homes or families are threatened, they become relentless. They pursue justice across the stars, leaving no wrong uncorrected." On Kepler Prime, Admiral Cole convened a meeting with her commanders. "Our work is not done," she said. "Even though the Zephyrian threat is gone, the galaxy is still unstable. Our victory is not just about military strength. It's about setting a standard for how the galaxy should treat its neighbors." Commander Walsh leaned forward. "How do we enforce that standard without becoming what we fought against?" Susan smiled faintly. "By being precise, principled, and predictable. Justice, not revenge. Every ship we send, every action we take must reflect who we are. The galaxy needs to understand that we protect our people, but we do not act like monsters." Meanwhile, on colonies like New Austin, life slowly returned to normal. Schools reopened. Fields were replanted. Families rebuilt their homes. Yet the memorial walls remained, carved with the names of every life lost, a constant reminder of what had been at stake. Children learned of the bravery of their parents and grandparents. Adults trained not only for defense but to preserve a culture of courage, responsibility, and resilience. On a quiet day, Colonel Jake Morrison stood before a group of visiting aliens. One asked, "Do humans ever overreact? Couldn't diplomacy have solved this?" Jake looked at the memorial wall, then at the stars beyond. "Diplomacy works when both sides respect life. But when someone attacks your people, no words are enough. You must act. You must show them that harming others has consequences. That is the lesson the galaxy has learned, and it will not forget." Even Fleet Admiral Krixt in his prison cell had come to understand the scope of humanity's response. The humans had not merely destroyed his fleet, they had reshaped the entire understanding of power in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had been strong, but their strength had relied on fear, deception, and quick victories. Humans had demonstrated that true strength was discipline, unity, and an unwavering commitment to principle. The galaxy from that point forward was a different place. Species that had once acted with aggression reconsidered their plans. Governments who had relied on intimidation or conquest learned to treat humanity with respect. And while the humans did not seek dominance, their example ensured a new era of careful balance. In private, Admiral Cole addressed her staff. "Remember," she said, "we do not fight because we love war. We fight because we love life, because we honor justice, and because we never, ever let anyone harm our people without consequence. That is the true lesson of New Austin. That is what humanity has shown the stars." And so, humanity continued its path, not as conquerors but as guardians of justice. Across the galaxy, every species knew that when you attacked a human colony, you weren't just fighting soldiers. You were awakening a force that would pursue fairness, justice, and protection for every life, across every star system. The lesson had been learned, and it would not be forgotten. The final piece in humanity's legacy. The galaxy had changed forever since the attack on New Austin. The once feared Zafran Empire had been broken, and every species had learned a hard truth. Humans were not like any other civilization. They were relentless in protecting their people, unwavering in pursuing justice, and united across planets and colonies in a way no alien species had ever seen. On Earth, Admiral Susan Cole walked along the observation deck of the newly rebuilt space station orbiting Kepler Prime. Below, fleets of human ships moved in coordinated patterns across the system, performing drills and patrols. It was a display of strength, but also a symbol of readiness and unity. Commander Ryan Walsh approached her. "The remaining Zafran ships have all surrendered or been captured," he reported. "Most of the crews are being sent to prison colonies. The galaxy is watching, and the word about New Austin's response has spread to every corner of known space." Susan nodded. "Good. But our work is not just about winning battles. It's about shaping a future where the galaxy remembers what happens when you attack humans. Diplomacy, trade, and cooperation will follow, but everyone must understand the consequences first. Meanwhile, across human colonies, life was returning to normal, but the lessons remained. Families rebuilt homes, schools reopened, and children learned both science and strategy, preparing for a future where they might need to defend themselves. Memorial walls continued to honor the fallen, a solemn reminder of courage, sacrifice, and principle. Colonel Jake Morrison stood at New Austin's memorial wall, reading the names carved in black stone. He spoke quietly to a group of visiting alien diplomats. "Humans forgive," he said. "We are not vengeful. But we never forget, and we never let anyone harm our people without facing justice. That is the legacy we leave for the galaxy." The young aliens listened carefully. "Even after all this, humans do not seek war?" one asked. Jake shook his head. "No. We seek peace. We trade fairly, we honor agreements, and we negotiate whenever possible. But when someone attacks our homes, our families, or our people, we act. And we act with certainty. That is why the galaxy now respects us." In the outer systems, the remaining Zaffron leaders were being processed for trials. Fleet Admiral Krixt, once proud and ruthless, stood before the human tribunal. His uniform was torn, his pride shattered, and his empire gone. "Do you have anything to say before sentencing?" the chief judge asked. Krixt lowered his eyes. I should have listened to the warnings," he whispered. "I did not understand the humans. I underestimated their unity and their principles. I failed as a commander, and I failed as a being who sought power." The judge nodded. "The tribunal has reviewed your actions. You and your officers will face the consequences of attacking innocent civilians. Those who cooperate will be sent to prison colonies. Those who do not, well, they will face the full measure of justice." Even as the Zaffrons faced their sentences, the galaxy began to take note. Governments that had once tolerated aggression now signed peace treaties with human worlds. Trade agreements were reopened, and systems that had been cautious of humans began to cooperate. But the lessons of New Austin remained clear. Harming humans or their people would no longer go unpunished. Elder Vorin of the Vorak Coalition sent a final message across the stars. "Let the fate of the Zaffrons serve as a warning to all," his ancient voice echoed. "Humans are peaceful when left alone. But when their families, their homes, or their people are threatened, they become relentless. They pursue justice across the stars, leaving no wrong uncorrected. This is not vengeance. It is principle, it is unity, it is humanity." Back on Kepler Prime, Admiral Cole held a meeting with her top officers. "We have secured victory," she said, "but this is only the beginning. Our strength lies not in the number of ships, but in the unity of our people. Every colony, every ship, every civilian contributes to the protection of our species. That is the true lesson for the galaxy." Captain Rachel Davis, who had commanded a squadron of converted cargo ships during the hunt, spoke up. "The galaxy now knows that we do not abandon our own. That alone is worth more than any battle won in space." "Exactly," Susan replied. "And our responsibility is to ensure that this principle guides every human decision. We do not seek war, but we never ever allow harm to go unanswered." In the months that followed, human colonies continued to prepare for the future. Children trained alongside adults, learning both science and defense. Civilian ships were retrofitted for emergency purposes, and communication networks were strengthened across the galaxy. Humans did not seek conflict, but they would always be ready to protect their people. Colonel Morrison returned to New Austin to oversee the final reconstruction. He stood before the memorial wall once more, watching families leave flowers and tokens for those who had died. "Every name here tells a story," he said softly. "Every life lost has taught the galaxy what it means to attack humanity. And every life lost has strengthened us, united us, and prepared us for the future." The young alien diplomats, observing quietly, finally understood. "Humans are not violent," one said. "They are principled, unyielding in protecting their people. That is why the galaxy respects them." Jake nodded. "Yes, that is the lesson of New Austin. And it will guide humanity forever. If someone attacks us, they will find no negotiation, no surrender, and no escape. They will find justice. And that is why we survive, why we thrive, and why the galaxy has learned to respect humanity." And so, the galaxy entered a new era. Not one of fear, not one of conquest, but one of respect, caution, and understanding. Humans became known not just as explorers or traders, but as guardians of principle. They traded fairly, negotiated honestly, and defended their people with unwavering resolve. The Zephyrian Empire was gone, but its legacy remained as a warning. The humans had proven that a united species, guided by principle and courage, could change the course of history. Across the stars, civilizations remembered the lesson. When you threaten humanity, there is nowhere to hide, and justice is inevitable. On Earth, as Colonel Morrison looked up at the stars, he felt a quiet pride. Humanity had faced its first true test in the galaxy, and had passed. Not with anger, not with hatred, but with unity, principle, and unwavering courage. The galaxy would never forget, and neither would they. The stars shone bright above, peaceful yet vigilant, a reminder that humanity's legacy had only just begun.